So, welcome to our class. And the topic that we're going to look at today is self-abandonment. And I think this is a very interesting topic for anybody, but particularly if you have any health condition, such as long COVID or ME, I think quite often it applies. And as I said in my Zoom letter, it came up for me very recently because I was having a coaching session because I've been going through some emotional stuff. And my coach said to me, well, when you're in this situation, make sure you don't abandon yourself. And I thought, I'm actually not quite sure what he means about that in spite of being a yoga therapist. So I then put this up as a thread on our Facebook group. Some of you might have seen that, and had some really interesting reflections. So I thought I need to go and research this topic more because it's something that I need to look at for myself. And I think it's really helpful for all of us. So I would like to invite you to lie down if you prefer, because we're going to be doing a lot of reflection and meditation. But if you prefer to meditate sitting up, then please stay sitting up. I'm still letting people in. So if you see me just leaning towards the screen, that's why. So before we actually start, the usual things, you don't need to keep looking at the screen if you don't want to. It's mainly going to be me talking, so that might be quite boring just to keep looking at the screen, and screens are tiring. And also, as always, please, and this is actually the meaning of self-abandonment, listen to yourself and what your needs are, how your body is feeling. And if you want to leave the class or just rest or whatever you want to do, check in with how you feel, because our classes are really all about you taking back control and power rather than external authorities, even yoga teachers telling you what to do. So please keep listening in, because a big part of our classes is this somatic awareness, coming back into the body. What's my body telling me is good for me? And this is all very relevant for not abandoning ourselves. Now, as I talk, so come to a comfortable lying or sitting position. And as I talk, you might see me looking down. It's because I've made quite a lot of notes for our meditation, which I hope are going to be helpful. So the first thing I want to say is that very importantly in yoga, people think of yoga as being a lot of physical postures. And I'm always saying, actually, that's not what real yoga is. It's a very important concept in yoga. And it's called, the Sanskrit word is svadhyaya. And what svadhyaya means is actually self-reflection. And it means getting to know yourself, looking internally. So you're not just triggered and reacting to everything that's happening externally. And that might even include your health condition. But you're looking more internally at what are your patterns, for example. What are the things maybe you keep repeating in life that maybe are serving you or not serving you? So this idea of self-reflection is really important. And I also just want to say that we are very much encouraged in our modern society to abandon ourselves by being out of touch with our feelings, being out of touch with our body, and by living mainly in the head. So one of the ideas about our yoga class is to become more in touch with our feelings and to be able to turn towards them and to see if they have a message to us, so that we're not distracting ourselves all the time. So I'd now like to invite you to close your eyes if you're comfortable to do so. And the first question for reflection I want to ask you is, what does abandoning yourself mean to you? And if it doesn't mean anything at the moment, that's fine. Hopefully by the end of the class, you might have a better idea. But what does abandoning yourself mean to you? And within this reflection, remember, you don't need an answer. It's just a reflection. Do you know when you abandon yourself? And do you distract yourself from difficult feelings by maybe suppressing them, doing something different, watching television, whatever your particular distraction tool is. So just have a think about that. And is there anything you use to avoid pain and to stop yourself becoming close to yourself? So when I was thinking about this, I was thinking for myself, it's quite often food I will use if I'm feeling emotional. I'll go and eat something sweet. It might be shopping. And before I got ME, it used to be overworking. So for me, pushing myself from one thing to the other, to the other, to the other, not resting in between, being very ambitious, very driven, that was my way of abandoning myself. But of course, I had no idea that was the case at the time. And then when I got ME, it was like my wisdom and my body was saying, well, you can't do that anymore. But I still would try pushing through. Took me years to learn to stop that. And then one of my distractions would be cleaning the house. That was probably not for you, maybe, but we all use things to stop us. I can see Matthew laughing at me. Maybe not one you're doing, Matthew. No, I don't blame you. And I don't want to overshare here. I'm only sharing so that to help you think about what your distraction would be. I'm going through quite a difficult emotional thing at the moment. And I usually don't drink at all. I hadn't drank for about 3 or 4 months. And on Saturday, I was in a really difficult emotional situation. So I had a gin and tonic. I'd like to say it was mindful because I knew I was doing it to abandon myself and as a distraction. But I'm just giving that as an example of the kind of coping strategies we use. So the next point for reflection is what are your coping strategies to come away from yourself when things are difficult? And then I'd like you to think about what tools you use which actually help you to come close to yourself. So I've written some things down. I'm going to give you some examples, but again, I'd like you to reflect on this. So the reflection, I've already said, meditation, eating good food rather than, the sugar or the alcohol I just mentioned, doing our daily yoga practice or our breathing practice, and staying present, staying as much in the body as we can. We're going to do some somatic experiencing in a minute. And if we're in a difficult situation, and that might include chronic fatigue, holding ourselves with compassion. And I think that's especially important if people around us are not compassionate to us. And I certainly had that experience in the past. I had ME at a time when it wasn't believed, and I was met with a lot of prejudice. And I didn't know about self-compassion then. So I want to share with you that being self-compassionate and kind to yourself is really, really important. And when we're self-compassionate, that often stops us from using these distractions, or it stops us from pushing through. And it means we can take rest and put our boundaries in and say no when we need to. So I've already spoken quite a lot. There's quite a lot for you to reflect on before we go to the next part of the practice. So just, again, have a think. What does self-abandonment mean to me? What is it I use to come away from myself? How can I be kinder to myself? And then we're going to do our breathing practice, because breathing is always a really good one to help us to be more present and to help to calm us. So today I'm going to invite you now to look at your screen, because I've got a visual aid that one of my students gave me. So thank you to Debbie. So it's this. So I'd like you to just look at your screen for a moment, and what we're going to do is breathe with this breathing ball. So if you can, breathe through your nose and breathe gently into the belly away from the chest. And breathe in and exhale. So we're breathing in evenly, even inhale. 1, 2, 3. Even exhale. 1, 2, 3. Breathing in. Christine, I think you can get them on Amazon actually, but I will check with Debbie where she got this. I saw these from another teacher and I thought it was so brilliant. I wanted one too. So I think when we use something visual to help us breathe, it really helps us to be more mindful, to slow the breathing down, which is what it's all about. And what I'm doing here is something called coherent breathing, which is an even inhalation and an even exhalation, which has been proven. There's lots of studies on PubMed that when this is used with long COVID, this helps people to recover quickly, more quickly, and brings in more energy and more calm. So that's an even inhalation and an even exhalation. I'm going to put the ball down now. I'm going to invite you to close your eyes and continue with the coherent breath. In yoga philosophy, it's called samana, even inhale, even exhalation. And you might like to use a slightly different ratio. You might need to make it faster or even slower. So all the PubMed research says you have about 6 breaths a minute. But for many of us, that's quite slow, and that's something to aim for. But just see if you can continue to breathe through the nose if you're able to, even inhale, even exhalation. And it might help you to put your hands on your belly just to remind you to get the breath a little bit deeper down from the diaphragm. And then you can continue to breathe like that if you like, or you can come back to your normal breathing pattern. We're just going to do the check-in because this is so important just to see how we are. So with kindness, with compassion, just observe your state of being, coming into the present moment, if you can, by just coming into the body, coming out of the head, coming out of judgments, dropping your awareness into your body, just observing how you are now in this moment. How are you physically? How are you mentally? How are you emotionally? And just observing that with kindness. So this means that we're not abandoning ourselves, we're coming back, even if there's something difficult there. Just see, rather than analysing it, if you can feel it and be with it. And we're now going to do a meditation that some of you might know of. It's very popular with the Buddhist teacher Tara Brach. Introduces this, and this is the rain practice. And even, if you're not a Buddhist, it doesn't matter at all. It's a really useful meditation to do. So what I'd like you to do, as you're sitting or lying comfortably, is just bring to your mind something not too challenging that you might be working with now. Maybe a difficult feeling, a situation or emotion. It might even be to do with your health. But please don't choose anything that's too traumatic. So this is the first part of the RAIN practice, the R. So it's to recognize. So just recognize if you've got a feeling there, and if you haven't, that's fine too. So just have a feeling that you might find a little bit challenging, but not too challenging. And then the next part of the RAIN practice is to allow this feeling. Now, very often when we're not on the yoga mat, when we're going about our daily life, however that is to us, if we have a difficult emotion or feeling, it might be barely conscious. So we're not going to stop and be still and be with the feeling, but we're going to distract ourselves from it. And I've already mentioned that might be through working or shopping or eating or, whatever it is. But for this practice, I'm asking you to allow the feeling. So to stay with it kindly. So just observe the feeling. And if it helps, you might like to take your hands to wherever you're feeling it physically in the body. So you're seeing this feeling as something more physical than mental. Just see it as a sensation in the body. So that's recognize, allow the feeling, don't push it away, allow everything to be as it is. And then the third part of the RAIN meditation is to inquire or investigate. I'm going to ask you a couple of questions which you can apply. And as I have said before, if you don't have any feeling, that's all right too. But just ask yourself, can I remember when I've had this sensation or feeling before? Can I even go right back to when I was quite young and recognize when this feeling first occurred to me? So investigate how familiar this feeling is. Is it actually coming up from something called the pain body, which is a reoccurring feeling that gets triggered, that may have come from something that happened a long time ago? Now, that might mean nothing to you, and that's fine too. But just investigate and inquire about this feeling. But very importantly, with kindness, with curiosity, with compassion. And then the last part of the RAIN practice is the N, and it means to not identify. So can you detach from this circumstance, experience, feeling, and see that it's something that is happening within your sphere of awareness, but it's not actually who you are? You're something more spacious and permanent. And even if you've been ill for a long time, it's still not who you are. It's a state of being. Even your energy fluctuates, it comes and it goes. Are you able to stand back and observe this without identifying with this feeling? So you're allowing it, but you're not identifying with it. It's not who you are. You are not the angry person. You're not the anxious person. You're not the tired person. These are just states of being which come and go in the wider spaciousness of you. And then the next part of the meditation is to create an affirmation for yourself, something positive that you can say. So again, I've got some examples, but I want you to do this for something that's relevant for you. So it might be something that you're going to say a few times to yourself, but I want you to really feel it, that it's true. You're not just saying it as something intellectual, you're really feeling it as best you can in your body. I am worthy of time and self-care. I am worthy of time and self-care. And if it helps, you might like to take your hand to your heart as you say this. I am loved. I am loved. And if it helps, if you have an idea of a higher power, a higher self, or the universe, angels, God, whatever it means to you, just see if you can be grateful for help and support. Because I really do believe, you might not share this, but once we start asking our higher power for help and acknowledging the help and showing gratitude for that, that starts to change our lives, because the universe is like a mirror. And if we are always reflecting sadness and negativity, that's what we get back. And that's not to acknowledge that there are times when we are sad and life is difficult. But if we can be grateful for life such as it is and ask for help when we need it, it's amazing what we do get back. So if that means something for you, you might like to say that out aloud or apply it mentally now. And if it doesn't, that's fine too. So another affirmation might be, I am okay, just as I am. And we're going to do a little bit of grounding work now, because coming back home to the self and not abandoning ourselves, it's very helpful to ground and to bring in somatic care. So again, just become aware of your body. Just explore your physical body. And then bring your awareness to your feet. Now I'm going to suggest, whether you're sitting or lying, if you've got your feet on the floor, if you're lying, you might like to bend the knees, but you're going to stamp the feet. I'm just going to do this with you as best I can. I'm not teaching in my usual room, so I'm kind of wriggling about, trying to get myself on the camera in case you need to look. But if you're lying, you can lift one foot, then the other. And if you're sitting, unless you're sitting on the floor, if you're sitting on a chair, just stamp your feet a few times, because this really helps to bring us back to the earth, back into the body. And the feet are very much associated with Muladhara chakra and grounding. And then be aware of your hips and the base of your spine and where they are touching. So that might be a chair or the floor. And just really feel into this support. And then we're going to do our somatic holding. Some of you will have done this with me before. So you can do this from sitting or lying, but take your hands and just cup your face in your hands. So you've got a hand resting on each cheek. And just take 3 slow, mindful breaths from here. And then say to yourself, I am here. I am okay. I am here. I am okay. Say that maybe 2 or 3 times mentally. And then we're going to move the hand position. So I would like you to take one hand to your forehead and one to the back of the neck. cradling around the back of the neck. Again, 3 mindful breaths here. And then move the hand that's at the back of the neck to the heart. And if you need to swap your hands, please do, so don't get tired. You've got one hand on your forehead, one on the heart, 3 mindful breaths. Feel that you're nurturing yourself, nourishing yourself. And then when you've done your 3 mindful breaths, you're going to have one hand on the heart, one hand on the belly, 3 mindful breaths, breathing into the belly, slowly through the nose. So the hand on the heart's quite still. And then when you're ready, drop your hands back beside you, or have your hands however is comfortable. And I'd like you to now think about one nice thing you can do for yourself, which would bring about self-care. So that might be something simple like doing a yoga nidra every day, or doing your breath work, or it might be meeting a friend for a cup of tea if you've got the energy, or just think of something nice that you can do to give time for yourself and to give yourself that self-care. And really, not abandoning ourselves means living from the heart and living authentically and being as present as we can. And now, when you're ready, we're going to do our yoga nidra. So I'm going to give you a couple of minutes to get ready to lie down comfortably using blankets, pillows, eye masks, whatever you need. I'm going to turn my camera off and I'll turn it on again at the end of the practice. So I will start the practice in a couple of minutes.